You know how some kids have imaginary friends? They see monsters under the bed or in the closet. It's a normal part of growing up, right? But what if the thing you imagine remembers you? What if it's not just in your head? This is a story about a woman named Eve and something she swears she met when she was just 6 years old. Eve grew up in one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods. You know the type every house has a manicured lawn, a white picket fence, and they all look almost identical. It was the kind of quiet, safe place where you'd think nothing strange could ever happen. But for Eve, it did. It only ever happened during heavy rain. Picture this, little 6-year-old Eve playing with her toys on the floor of her bedroom. Outside, a storm is raging, rain lashing against the house, and that's when she'd hear it. A soft, rhythmic sound, tap tap tap. It was coming from her window. Now, here's the detail that sends a shiver down your spine. Her bedroom was on the 2nd floor. There were no trees tall enough to reach it, no balcony, nothing, just a sheer drop to the ground below. The first few times, she tried to rationalize it. It must be a branch caught in the wind, or maybe the rain hitting the glass in a weird way. Kids are good at explaining away things that don't make sense. But then, the sound changed. It wasn't just tapping anymore. She heard a voice. It was faint, barely a whisper, carried on the wind and the rain. And it was saying her name, slowly, deliberately, as if something was learning how to speak, just for her. Eve. She said she would freeze solid, not even daring to breathe. Every muscle in her little body would tense up. You might think, oh, kids are just dramatic, but she insists this felt different. It wasn't a playful scare. The feeling in the room became heavy, oppressive, as if the very air was holding its breath, listening along with her. Every time it rained, it came back. The same soft tapping, the same slow, drawn-out whisper of her name. It never tried to get in. It never shattered the glass or rattled the frame. It just waited. Patiently, naturally. She tried telling her parents. What kid wouldn't? She'd run downstairs, eyes wide with fear, and tell them about the tapping man, the whispering at her window. And they did what most parents would do. They'd smile, pat her on the head, and say, "Oh honey, it's just the storm making noises. You have such a big imagination." They chalked it up to typical kid stuff, a phase she would eventually outgrow. She was just being a kid, but Eve knew what she heard, and the fact that they didn't believe her made it even scarier. She was alone with it. This went on for a while, rainy night after rainy night. The tapping, the whispering. Eve learned to live with it in a strange way. She'd pull her blankets over her head and try to block it out, humming to herself until she fell into a restless sleep. She never dared to look. She had a deep primal fear of what she might see, staring back at her from the other side of the glass. Then came one particularly violent storm. The wind howled and the rain was coming down in sheets, so hard it sounded like pebbles being thrown against the house. Eve was in her room, trying to be brave, when her mum came in. "Just checking on you, sweetie," she said, walking over to the window to make sure it was latched properly. She started to say something, maybe about the storm, but she stopped, mid-sentence. Eve watched as her mum's face went completely white. She said it was like watching all the blood, all the color, just drain away. Her mum's eyes were fixed on the window, wide, with a terror Eve had never seen on an adult's face before. She didn't scream, she didn't run. She just stood there, paralyzed for a moment. Then, in a voice so low and shaky, it was almost a whisper itself, she said, "Don't look at the window." The command was so urgent, so full of genuine fear, that Eve didn't even think to question it. Her mum practically flew across the room, grabbed Eve by the arm, and pulled her out into the hallway. She then went back, slammed the curtains shut with a violent tug, and closed the bedroom door firmly behind them. They spent the rest of that night downstairs in the living room, huddled together on the couch. Her mum never explained what she saw. Not that night, not ever. Years passed. The tapping and the whispering seemed to fade away as Eve got older. Life moved on. She became a teenager, got busy with school, friends, and all the usual teenage drama. The memory of the rainy night visitor became just that, a strange, half-forgotten childhood memory. One evening, when she was about 15, she decided to bring it up, thinking maybe now, as an adult, her mum would finally tell her what happened. They were in the kitchen, and she casually said, "Hey mum, do you remember that time when I was little, and you saw something at my window during a storm?" The change was immediate. Her mum's friendly expression vanished. She got that same pale, haunted look from all those years ago. She didn't answer the question. She just mumbled something about needing to check on the laundry, turned, and quickly left the room. The subject was dropped, and a silent, unspoken rule was established. They would never, ever talk about it again. Whatever her mother saw that night was terrifying enough to silence her for good. Now, here's where the story takes a truly chilling turn. Eve eventually grew up, finished college, and moved out to start her own life in a different city. Her family was still living in that same house. Her younger brother, who was just a baby when all of this started, was now a kid himself, living in Eve's old bedroom. He had never heard her stories. The family had made sure of it. One day, Eve was on the phone with him. They were just catching up when he said something that made her blood run cold. He said it so casually, so innocently. "Hey Eve, can I ask you a weird question?" he said. "Do you ever hear someone tapping on the window when it rains?" Eve's heart stopped. She couldn't speak. He continued, his voice just a kid's voice on the other end of the line. "It's weird," he said. "He keeps saying my name. Some things don't go away. Some childhood fears don't fade with time. They don't grow up with you and move on. Some just wait. They wait for the rain, and they wait for the next kid. Stay safe, and maybe keep your curtains closed on rainy nights." Do you remember being a kid, lying in bed, absolutely certain you saw something move in the shadows of your room? You'd squeeze your eyes shut, pull the covers up to your chin, and tell yourself it was just your imagination. But what if it wasn't? What if something was really there, watching you from the darkness? This story is for everyone who ever felt that chilling certainty. It's about a little boy named Mason and a friend he made in the dark. Mason was only 5 years old when his world was turned upside down. His parents got divorced, and he and his mom moved into a new, unfamiliar house. It was a tough time for a little kid. He was lonely, confused, and trying to make sense of his new life. So, when he started talking about an imaginary friend, his mum wasn't too surprised. It seemed like a classic coping mechanism, a way for a lonely child to create a companion. She thought it was a little sad, but ultimately harmless. After all, what's the harm in a make-believe friend? But Mason's friend wasn't like the ones you read about in storybooks. This friend had some very specific, very strange rules. First, he would only ever appear in the dark. As soon as a light was turned on, he was gone. Second, he didn't play in the living room or run around in the backyard. His place was the closet. Mason would spend hours just sitting on his bedroom floor, staring at the closet door, which he always left cracked open just a little. His mom would hear him whispering, having these one-sided conversations with the empty space inside. And the things this friend would say, they were unsettling. Mason would sometimes repeat phrases that a 5-year-old shouldn't know, things he couldn't possibly understand. It was bizarre, but his mom brushed it off. Kids have wild imaginations, right? They pick up weird things. She tried to tell herself it was just a phase, that her son was just processing his new reality in his own unique way. She was trying her best to be a good mom, and she didn't want to make him feel bad for having a friend, even if it was an odd one. Every night, the ritual was the same. Mason would finish his dinner, have his bath, and get ready for bed. But instead of climbing under the covers, he would pull his little race car rug to the center of the room, sit cross-legged, and face his closet. The door would be open just a sliver, a vertical strip of pure blackness. He'd talk to it, listen, and then talk again. His mom would watch from the hallway, her heart aching a little. It was just a boy and his imaginary friend. It was harmless, wasn't it? One night, everything changed. Mason's mom was walking past his room after tucking him in. When she heard him talking, she paused, leaning against the doorframe to listen, a soft smile on her face. But the words she heard sent a shiver down her spine. Mason's little voice was full of genuine concern. He asked the closet, "Why do you always stay in the dark? Doesn't it hurt your eyes?" She held her breath, listening. A long, heavy silence filled the room. It felt like the air itself was waiting for an answer. Then, she saw Mason nod slowly, as if he was receiving a reply that she couldn't hear. His expression was serious, his brow furrowed with empathy. Then, he spoke again, his voice clear and steady. "Okay," he said. "I'll tell Mummy you're hungry. I'll tell Mummy you're hungry." The words echoed in her mind. An icy dread washed over her. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a child playing pretend. This was something else entirely. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Slowly, quietly, she pushed Mason's bedroom door open. The scene that met her eyes was even more disturbing than she'd imagined. Her son was sitting on the floor, just as she'd pictured. But he was crying. Not the loud, tantrum-like sobs of a frustrated child, but silent, heavy tears rolling down his cheeks. He wasn't scared. He looked heartbroken. He was staring into the deep, impenetrable blackness of the closet with an expression of profound pity, as if he felt sorry for whatever was lurking in there. Her maternal instincts took over. She had to fix this. She had to make the monster go away. Without thinking, she strode across the room and flicked on the main light switch. The room was flooded with bright, sterile light. She looked into the closet. It was empty. Just a few of Mason's shirts hanging on the rail and a pair of sneakers on the floor. Nothing. A wave of relief washed over her, but it was cut short by a horrifying scream. Mason shrieked, clamping his hands over his eyes as if the light was physically painful. "You're hurting him," he screamed, his voice raw with panic and anger. "You're hurting him. Stop. Close the door. Turn it off." He was thrashing on the floor, hysterical. Not because he was scared of what was in the closet, but because he was terrified for it. He was trying to protect it from the light. His mum stood frozen for a moment, the cheerful yellow-painted walls of the room suddenly feeling sinister. The happy dinosaur wallpaper seemed to mock her. She quickly shut the closet door, turned off the light, and rushed to her sobbing son, holding him tight. He eventually cried himself to sleep in her arms, mumbling apologies to the dark. That night, neither of them slept in that room. The very next day, they moved all of Mason's furniture into the spare guest room down the hall. The room with the closet was shut, and the door was locked. They never spoke of it again. Years went by. Life moved on. Mason grew up, went to college, and became a young man. The memory of his closet friend faded, becoming like a half-remembered dream. One afternoon, he was visiting his mom, and they were reminiscing about his childhood. He was in his mid-20s now, and the story felt distant and a little silly. He brought it up jokingly, a funny anecdote from his past. "Hey Mum," he said with a laugh, "remember that weird imaginary friend I had? The one who lived in the closet in the old house?" His mum was washing dishes, her back to him. She just shrugged, her movements a little stiff. Vaguely, she replied, her voice flat, as if she barely remembered the nights of terror. Mason chuckled. "I wonder whatever happened to him. Wonder where my old closet friend went." His mum stopped washing. She turned the water off, the silence suddenly deafening. Without turning around, she said something in a low, quiet voice, a voice he hadn't heard in 20 years. "Hopefully," she said, "he went somewhere we will never, ever hear from him again." The words hung in the air, cold and heavy. Mason felt a chill creep up his spine, the same chill he used to feel as a child sitting in the dark. And then, just before she turned the water back on, she added something else, so quiet he almost missed it, a whisper, under her breath, not meant for him to hear, but he did, clear as day. She said, "He wasn't imaginary. Stay safe, and maybe, keep your closet door closed tonight." Have you ever sleepwalked? Maybe as a kid, you'd wake up somewhere totally random, like the kitchen floor or even the bathtub, with no memory of how you got there. It's like playing a real-life video game in horror mode, only you don't even know you're playing. For a little girl named Nora, this was her reality. Sleepwalking was just another quirky part of her childhood. Waking up on a pile of laundry or curled up on a hallway rug was weird, but not scary. It was just a thing Nora did, until it wasn't. Shortly after she turned 8, everything changed. Nora just stopped sleepwalking. Poof, gone. Her parents were relieved. No more late-night wanderings, no more waking up in strange places. The house was finally quiet and still through the night, or so they thought. The quiet was a mask for something much, much stranger. A few weeks after her sleepwalking supposedly ended, Nora's mom started noticing something odd. Wet, muddy footprints. They were small, like a child's. They would appear in the mornings, leading a trail from the back door, through the kitchen, down the hallway, and stopping right at the edge of Nora's bed. Every time, her mom would rush in, her heart pounding, only to find Nora fast asleep, her feet perfectly clean and dry. It made no sense. They checked the locks on the back door every night. They were always secure. Yet, almost every morning, the tiny wet footprints would be there, a silent, muddy mystery on their clean floors. Nora herself had no memory of anything. She'd wake up, go to school, play with her friends, completely oblivious to the nightly visits. Her parents were getting more and more worried. Where were these footprints coming from? Was Nora somehow getting outside and coming back in without a trace? The questions piled up, each one more unsettling than the last. The house didn't feel safe anymore. It felt watched. After a week of this, Nora's dad decided he'd had enough. He was going to solve this mystery once and for all. He told his wife he was going to stay up all night, keep a vigil, and see exactly what was going on. He armed himself with a big mug of black coffee and a heavy flashlight, settling into an armchair in the living room that gave him a clear view of both the hallway and the back door. The hours ticked by. Midnight came and went. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. The house was completely silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. He was starting to feel his eyelids get heavy, the coffee wearing off. He was just about to doze off, thinking maybe nothing would happen tonight, when a flicker of movement caught his eye. It was just after 3 a.m., that infamous witching hour. He saw Nora's small figure emerge from her bedroom. She moved silently, like a ghost, down the hallway. Her eyes were wide open, but they were vacant, staring straight ahead at nothing. She wasn't sleepwalking in the clumsy way she used to. This was different. This was precise, determined. She was heading straight for the back door. Her dad's heart leaped into his throat. He quietly got up from his chair. "Nora," he called out, his voice a hoarse whisper. She didn't even flinch. She kept walking, her little hand reaching for the doorknob. He started to move towards her, ready to scoop her up and take her back to bed. And that's when he saw it. Nora wasn't alone. Standing directly behind her, so close it was almost touching her, was a figure. It was tall and impossibly thin, like a shadow that had been stretched out. But it wasn't just a shadow. It had substance. It had weight. He could see how the floorboards seemed to bend ever so slightly beneath it. Its form was hazy, indistinct, but one detail was terrifyingly clear. A long, slender hand was resting gently on Nora's shoulder, as if it were guiding her, leading her out into the night. Her dad froze, every muscle in his body screaming. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The sight was so fundamentally wrong, his brain refused to process it. He squeezed his eyes shut for just a second, a desperate, instinctual blink. When he opened them again, it was gone. The shadowy figure had vanished. In its place, Nora stood at the door, but she was different now. She snapped awake, her body jolting as if from an electric shock. Her eyes, no longer empty, were wide with confusion and pure terror. She looked around frantically, her gaze landing on her dad. Tears started streaming down her face. "Daddy," she sobbed, her voice trembling. "I don't want to go outside anymore. Please don't make me go outside." She had no memory of the figure, no idea what he had seen, but on some deep, primal level, she knew something was trying to take her. She felt the pull, the cold guidance of that hand on her shoulder. That night, everything changed for good. The next day, Nora's dad reinforced every single door and window in the house. He installed new locks, deadbolts, even window bars on Nora's bedroom window. He wasn't taking any chances. He never told Nora, or even his wife, exactly what he saw. How could he explain it? How could he put into words the sight of a shadow with weight, a silent puppet master guiding his daughter out into the darkness? He couldn't. He just buried the image deep inside, a cold, heavy secret he would carry forever. And just like that, the wet footprints stopped. They never appeared again. The nightly visitations were over, but the experience left a permanent scar on Nora. From that day forward, she developed a deep-seated fear. She could never, ever sleep with her back to the door of her room. She had to be facing it. She needed to see whatever might come through it. This habit followed her through her teenage years, into adulthood. Even now, years later, living in a college apartment in a completely different city, hundreds of miles away from her childhood home, the ritual remains. Every single night, before she goes to sleep, she makes sure her bed is positioned so she can see the entrance. Her roommates think it's a strange quirk, just another one of Nora's eccentricities. They don't know the real reason. They don't know about the shadow with weight. They don't understand that she's not just watching the door. She's watching for what might be standing on the other side. because she learned a terrifying lesson that night as a child. Some things don't just follow you. Some things are patient. Some things just wait for you to come back. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one. Stay safe,